Hi guys, Jess here from the Scrappy Sisters. So as you can see, I've got these two cute little pictures of me and my little man cooking. And I did a little bit of fussy cutting with this one. So I cut out for eight butterflies, and then I just hand cut around the approximate shape of these butterflies in a slightly larger size. It does not need to be perfect. This is a scrap lift of a Paige Evans layout, which I'm sure you have seen. I am certain that she used her silhouette cameo to cut out her butterflies, but mine is going to be a little bit different. And so I'm using the I Am collection from who is that from? Simple Stories. Sorry, lost my brain for a minute there. And I'm just doing this super rough so that it's got lots of little layers happening behind the butterflies there. No real rhyme or reason as to how many. I'm just however many I feel like at the time. So as you can see, I'm up to about, not including the butterfly, I'm up to about 3 layers, my third layer of pattern paper. And I'm just making it so you can see each of the different patterns, each of the different colours showing through underneath. Now, I was contemplating getting out my sewing machine like Paige Evans does, but I couldn't be bothered, so I just popped a staple in mine. And I'm showing you how I've cut through 2 of my butterflies, but I'll do the other 6 off camera because it would take a very long time, and I'm sure you don't need to see the process 6 times because I'm sure you're getting the idea. So this is a gorgeous collection. I really love all the different paper colors in this collection. Something I find really tricky is colors that are backed on cream, because I don't really use cream and I don't own cream cardstock. I use white. So I do find it quite a challenge when the papers are very cream based, and then I get super grumpy, and I think my sister mentioned this in her post, because the papers are cream, but yet the ephemera pack, the little outline that goes around the outside of the coloured ephemera, is white. And like, how does that make any logical sense? So I have decided to just embrace the whole is it cream, is it white fiasco, and I just use a little bit of both. I use cream and white, mix it together, and I feel it sort of works. You don't notice too badly. There are a few things that I deliberately don't do because of the cream and the white. For example, I had cut out a cut file on white paper, and that just looked too much, too stark next to these cream colors. I'll use that with a different collection, but bits of white, pops of white, I find is okay, in my opinion. So yeah, I've almost finished this second butterfly. You can totally see that the butterflies are not being cut out perfectly at all. And I'm actually in some cases deliberately making the wings a tiny bit different or what have you, so that you definitely can see them shining through behind once you put all the layers together. I really just want a messy pop of colour, to be honest. It does look a little bit chaotic and a little bit cluttered, but there's not going to be a lot of embellishing happening on this page because the butterflies are the feature, are the embellishments. So as I said, this was a scrap lift of Paige Evans. She used black and white in her background. I decided I wanted to go with the colour scheme that was happening throughout the photos, so I've gone with this gorgeous sort of dark teal green color. It's beautiful, and I'm using a very fancy technique there of just squirting a line and smushing it with my fingers. Now it is, what is it? It's 1 p.m. in the afternoon when I started this layout, and it is freezing in my house. It is like 11 degrees, and I think my house is about -2. So I've got 47 layers on. And so this took a very long time to dry. So I ended up getting out my heat gun as well to help it along a little bit. And I'm now doing a little bit of embossing. So I'm using the Versamark's embossing glue stamp stuff. That's the technical word for it. And I'm using a white embossing powder, and I believe that that's a Stampin' Up powder. What I was doing beforehand is I was rubbing the Stampin' Up! Anti-static pack across the page. It just helps for the embossing powder to not stick where it shouldn't. And then just using my heat gun there to emboss that beautiful white powder to make it go that gorgeous shiny white colour. And I end up doing that quite a few times across the page. I don't show you how I emboss the whole page because I figure you guys understand having seen once. And now I am backing my photos. So I backed my photo in a white cardstock, a really thin white cardstock, and I'm just using the scraps of where I cut out the butterflies. So the 4 butterflies were cut out of 4x6 page that I'd prepared for Project Life, but then didn't end up needing. I'd cut too many. So I thought, let's not waste it. Put a little tuck in it, put a little fold in it, add a little bit extra, texture to the page, and I'll just use that. So I do that with both of my pages. I also wanted to use this doily, but it got a bit scrunched. Not too badly scrunched, but enough that it looked a bit funny. So I decided to embrace the scrunch, and I just scrunched the whole thing. Gave it a bit more texture, gave it a bit more lift on the page. I didn't, as you saw, I only put one tiny piece of tape on it. I didn't really stick it down very well because I wanted that dimension happening on the page. So then putting some foam behind my photo and putting those 2 photos together. If you have keen eyes, you can see over on the left-hand side that there's a schmozzle happening over there on the 3rd line down, the 3rd sort of teal line down. That paint was a little bit wet still, and I didn't realise, and so that would desperately need covering for me to be happy with how this layout is looking. So I'm thinking I'm going to put my title family over there to cover up that disaster zone. And so just working out where all my flowers are going, my butterflies are going to go. I have a couple that are the same, so I want to be careful to make sure that they're spaced out, and there are some that are bigger than others, so I'm just wary of fitting everything in on the page. I probably, in hindsight, should have done 7 and not 8 butterflies because, uneven numbers are nice, but I did 8 and that's okay too. So I just stick these down along the page with double-sided tape and I'm going to do that off screen. So once that is all done, that's my last one there. I then decide that I'm not happy with the placement of the title. It looks unbalanced. So I decided I need to move it to over underneath the photographs. And I also decided that colour, as much as it looked pretty on the page, it didn't match because there wasn't enough of that colour happening throughout the layout. I needed a little bit more of that sort of shiny pink happening. So I decided I'd emboss it white and have it really tie in with the rest. So I've just popped the stamp. I've got it sitting on a piece of plastic and I've just popped the stamp straight on top of the word, and then put that same white embossing powder on top, and then put the excess back, of course. Because I wasn't very careful with the stamp, I know that the stamp has definitely gone onto the plastic, and so then therefore the embossing powder is sticking to the plastic. And I was going to try and wipe it all off and then decided it wasn't worth the effort. There was way too much stuck, and I was just going to heat gun it anyway. And just waste that small amount of embossing powder that got stuck to the plastic. It's no big deal. So just heating that up. For those of you that are wondering, it was totally fine having it stuck on the plastic. Obviously, don't hold the gun for a really, really long time on a piece of plastic. That would be silly. But I just constantly moved the gun here and there, around and around, and it was no drama. And that has all been embossed. And it looks much better being white, just to tie in with the layout. And I'm popping that over underneath the flowers. For those of you that haven't done much embossing, it pretty much dries straight away. And you can fiddle with it and play with it basically straight away. Maybe like 2 seconds. And I'm just cutting up a few foam dots to stick underneath the ends of the words that aren't on top of the photograph, just to make sure that it's got that same dimension happening. So once I have done that, I realize I now need to cover that awfulness that happened over on the left-hand side. So I go and got my Maggie Holmes tiny word phrases, and I deliberately got these ones because they're in that sort of creamy colour, and I wanted that to be continued on the layout. So I actually back these in double-sided tape again because I find that they don't stick very well, and they come off pretty much every layout I've ever put them on. So I just double up with my sticky on these. So I'm putting 3 of these over in that side there just to cover up that disaster zone, and it's a bit better. It's not 100% better, but it's a bit better. They do look a little bit sad and lonely hanging out over there by themselves, but I really needed to put something on the page over there. So, you know, as Inky Quill says, when in doubt, cover it with embellishments. I still wanted something else happening on this page, so I grabbed out the Corbett Creations wood veneer love hearts and popped those around. I didn't want to use anything too colourful or anything too sort of over the top. There's a lot going on this page already, but it did need something subtle, so I put those down, and then I just stick those on with double-sided tape. I also decided to incorporate this cute, I don't know what you'd call it, little border piece, I suppose, of wood veneer that I thought might look super cute underneath the title. You can't even see it yet because I'm putting the double-sided tape on it, but it is about to come into screen. I probably could have edited that out, sorry. More than one of these would have looked really cute on the page, but I only have one, so I'm just going to roll with it. Rule of thumb is, you know, threes, family of threes of wood, you know, so wood veneer in clusters of 3s. One could say I've technically only done 2 by putting on that border piece in the love hearts, or you could say I've put on 1,000 because I've put on heaps of love hearts. So I think it carries okay in this particular layout because I've spread that wood veneer across that same diagonal feel. I always knew I was going to add a few tiny words down in this corner because, as I said before, those other ones up there look a bit lonely, just hanging out by themselves. So I wanted to put a second little set over here underneath the word family, and also that fills the gap between that one lonely heart sitting out by itself. So a layout is never finished without some Hardy Shine, so popping on a little bit of gold Hardy Shine, which I'm totally scared to use now because I don't want it to run out. Though there have been some amazing suggestions on what is a great alternative. So I do look forward to exploring some of the alternatives when I do eventually run out of the gold. And I also splatter on a little bit of black, not too much black, and a really fine mist of the black, which is hard to control, but that's what I did. It still wasn't quite finished. It was super close, but not quite. So I just popped on a few enamel dots in a really similar color to the teal that I used in the paint, and now I'm finally happy with how it looks. So this is my layout. I hope you like it. I'm about to zoom in and give you some close-ups. I've slowed down the camera again so it's sort of in real time for you. As you can see, the page has warped a little bit. That is because of using the heat gun to fasten up the process of the drying time, and because I didn't gesso behind my paint. Those of you that watch my channel regularly know that I never gesso. I just deal with the warping. It's fine. So I hope you like it. I hope this has inspired you. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for another video coming up soon. Bye guys.